Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Krefft, and this is the 7th in our series of videos on anxiety management in the time of COVID-19. One reason managing anxiety is so difficult for us is that, in general, we have a very poor understanding of our emotions. As I mentioned in the Q&A, we insist on calling our emotions anger, fear, grief, and guilt negative emotions. Well, these emotions are simply part of us. They're part of us in our body, part of us in our minds, in our brains. We don't call our adrenal glands negative, and we don't call the hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, that come from those glands negative. In fact, those hormones can be quite life-saving. We don't call our brains negative. And yet, when we have emotions that proceed from and in and through this body and this brain, somehow we insist on calling those negative. Our emotions come naturally. We are hardwired for these emotions. So they're far from negative. They are simply human. But when we don't understand our emotions or what to do with them, and we have been taught that these emotions are negative, then that's what we come to believe. Our difficult emotions are uncomfortable, and they certainly are challenging. At times they can be very downright hard on us. But that's not the same thing as negative. These emotions are not negative, they're human. As I've worked with people over the years, one of the things people have taught me about human emotions is that our emotions interact. We don't just, at one point in time, solely feel afraid, and another time only feel angry. And when we're grieving, we don't just feel sadness. People have taught me that our emotions interweave, interact, and sometimes turn loop-the-loops around each other. We have one brain and one body to process all these emotions. Now, I know that our neuroscientists are mapping the brain, literally looking at our brains and figuring out what does this part do, what does this part do, what does this part do. And they are doing an excellent job of helping us to understand ourselves. But they're not finding that we have one part of the brain, say here, that handles anger, and another, say here, that handles fear, and grief is over here, and something else is back here. That's not what they're finding. They're finding that a set of structures deep inside the brain called the limbic system mediate our emotions, as far as we understand them today, and we're always learning more about it. Many other structures are involved too. These emotions then are inside of us as human beings. If we call these emotions negative, then we're calling ourselves negative. Now, fear, part of the uncomfortableness of fear, comes from the way fear operates. Fear makes us want to pull our limbs in close to our body, pull the covers over our head, and cry, the fetal position. That's what fear does to us at its worst. That is misery. Anger, on the other hand, makes us want to throw our limbs away from our body, move outward. Anger puffs us up, makes us feel bigger. The purpose of anger is to activate us, to get us moving, to do something, to take care of ourselves in some positive way. So rather than allow ourselves the misery of the fetal position, it's a natural thing that we want to turn that fear into anger so that we can move outward and do something to protect ourselves. If you look at our planet, our world, all of our cultures, we human beings hate the fetal position. We don't want it. We don't want anything to do with it. We would rather be mad than be scared. If scared pulls us inward, anger pushes us outward and activates us. This is normal. The same thing happens with grief. Grief also pulls us inward. We feel miserable. We feel helpless. Because we don't like this feeling of helplessness, we convert grief into anger so that we will push outward from ourselves. The purpose of that is for us to take some positive action to protect ourselves, to help ourselves. But when we don't know, when we don't understand how fear and anger work together, how grief and anger work together, then we try to shove those emotions away and just get angry. There is, however, a positive use of anger, and we want to remember that it's not just all negative, as we historically have been taught. And here it is. The positive use of anger is active determination. Active determination. When you get fearful, when you are grieving, grab a hold of that emotion, turn it around, and get mad enough to get determined to take some positive action for yourself. What that positive action is going to be different in all the different circumstances you find yourself in. In this series of videos, I've already recommended that part of your positive action may be to connect with other people, to form community groups, to be part of a mutual aid society, and for yourself to locate and work diligently at turning your own negative self-talk around. Yes, the self-talk might be negative. The emotion is not negative. The emotion just is part of our humanity. So when you are fearful, remind yourself with your self-talk, I'm thinking fear-based thinking. That's why I'm feeling so anxious right now. I don't like this. I need to do something about it to take action. So I'm going to reach down inside of myself and find the part of me that is angry about this and turn that anger into determination to take positive action for myself. I like the sayings that they have in AA. AA has many good and useful sayings. And one of those sayings I like the most is, anger is a cover for fear. Well, in many cases that's true. However, it's not always true. If you're rushing through your house or apartment at this time and accidentally knock into one of those boxes that you have lying around from all the things you've been ordering, and you, quite irrationally, you kick the box and perhaps curse, well, you're not scared of the box. You're just angry. You're angry probably, first of all, at yourself for rushing around and not being careful enough. And then maybe also you're a little mad at yourself for not having broken those boxes down 3 days ago and put them in the recycling. But many times, yes indeed, we take our fear and we flip it into anger so that we don't experience the misery, the indignity of the fetal position. A fetal position can be an actual physical fetal position where you literally crawl in your bed and put the covers over your head and crawl in a ball. But we can also do what I call a mental fetal position, where your attitude, though you may be walking around, your attitude is exactly the same as it would be if you were in that fetal position in bed. That's the time to grab a hold of ourselves and say, no, this stinks, this feels terrible, this feels awful. This is an indignity to my humanity to feel this way. Find your anger and get mad enough to take proper action to take care of yourself and move yourself out of whatever that situation is. So whether you're irritable, grumpy, or downright mad, figure out the connections inside of yourself. How much of that anger is really coming from the fact that you're scared, very, very scared? How much of it is coming from the fact that you may be perhaps grieving? Whether you're a doctor, nurse, working in the hospital, in a nursing home, and someone has died, and perhaps on a very, very bad shift, you've had 3 people die within a half hour. This is very difficult. This is very fear-provoking, grief-inducing. And because that fear feels so uncomfortable inside of ourselves, we want to turn it into anger. We may be irritable, grumpy with people that have absolutely nothing to do with the source of those emotions. Recognize this and talk to yourself in your positive self-talk. I'm being irritable because I'm scared. Let's see. How can I take this irritability and turn it into determination for some positive action to help myself and to help the situation? When we do this, then we're taking the very fuel, the very fire of the fear inside of us, and we're turning it into the positive expression, which is active determination. Fire is an excellent image to use to describe what's going on inside of us. Untended, fire can be destructive, burn down a forest. On the other hand, when fire is channeled and used appropriately, we can cook a meal with it. We can warm ourselves with it. Emotion is the same way. We can use emotion destructively in a way that's harmful to ourselves and others, or we can turn it on its head and say, no, I won't do anything negative. I'm going to find a way to grab a hold of this emotion and use it for positive, active determination. You use the fact that the anger as an emotion wants you to throw your limbs away from your body, to move your arms outward, to get going, to do something, to be assertive. This could be in a time that you're very, very emotional, something as simple as taking a fast walk, so that in the walk you are literally moving your arms and moving your legs and allowing that anger, energy, and fear and grief to be physically expressed in a proper way through your body. It might also be expressed by talking to a good friend on the phone or by video chat, or if you're in therapy, in teletherapy with your therapist. So, when you get mad, get determined. If you need help, and many people do, reach out. If you're not in teletherapy, this might be a good time for you to begin something like that. Many states and other organizations have lines, telephone lines, they might be video chat lines, where you can call just to get help, just to have someone to talk to. Figure out what positive action you can take for yourself to express that emotion. Turn that anger into determination for positive action for yourself. If you're a doctor, a nurse, a nursing home person, you're angry because you don't have enough PPE, well, what can you do about it? No, nothing is not the answer. There must be something. I was intrigued to see how at the beginning it was found that PPE had to be reused. Someone figured out, we'll just take paper bags and hang them up on the wall, and everybody will know which mask belongs to who and how to use that. That's an example of very simple homegrown creativity and inventiveness in a time of great distress. This is what we want. Find the determination to figure out and focus your attention on, what can I do? What can I do? It may be something large, it may be something small, but everyone can contribute something at this time. That's taking our emotions and channeling them into positive action. It will help you knowing that you're doing something positive, and it certainly will help others also. The positive use of anger is determination. The positive use of grief is also to take that grief, that sadness, and find the anger you feel about losing your loved one or about grieving whatever you're grieving, and turning that into determination to take some positive action. If you're grieving, to take a positive action to honor that person that you have lost to death. If you're feeling helpless in any way, to say to yourself, no, this is unacceptable. I refuse to feel helpless. What can I do? I will find something to do. It interests me, for example, a very simple thing that just sprang up overnight that people are now doing. People who have sewing machines at home are just making masks. And larger organizations are saying, okay, we'll coordinate that. Send us your mask. Here's how we can do that. This too is an example of inventiveness and creativity, of finding that emotion that would have us crawl in bed with the covers over our head and saying, no, we won't do that. We will take positive action to figure this out, to work it out, to get us through. I hope that you're beginning to emotionally understand your fear and your other emotions, how they work together, how fear impacts anger, how we human beings use anger to try to shove fear away, how we use anger to shove the very painful, deep feelings of helplessness and sadness that we feel in grief, to try to shove that away. Take that anger. Don't tell yourself, don't be angry. Take that anger and flip it. Turn it into determination for some type of positive action. The next video is going to be on a topic that has come to my attention. It's something that we all do, or should do, or might do. I've seen videos of nurses talking about crying in their cars on the way home. So this is something that would be very helpful for us to know and to understand. That will be the next video. It's especially for doctors, nurses, first responders, and everyone who, as we're now saying, is on the front lines. But it's also for all of us. The video after that will be for parents, teachers, and everyone who's a child at heart to look at how to raise children in an emotionally open manner so that those children may, from the time they are children, know about how to honor their emotions in healthy emotionality. And please remember, breathe, your diaphragmatic breathing, wear your mask when you go out, and remember, heaven is with us. May your angels bless you.